Hello and happy almost Halloween. Today I'm going to show you how to make these really cute pair of earrings, and the best thing about them is they've got loads of variations too. They're suitable for all levels of beaders, so let me show you what we can make. So the first pair are these ones, and you can see they've got a slight curve to them and a three-dimensional brim. So that's for your tiny little cute witch earrings. And then I made these ones in exactly the same way, they're just a slightly different colour. I went for some sort of Halloween season colours, and then this version is exactly the same, but I made it bigger to make it a bit more of a pointy witch hat, and instead of making the brim here in this colour, I've added an extra colour into this row and added a brim, and I'll walk you through how to make that variation. And then if you're very new to beading, then this version is much simpler. So if you feel like adding the extra three-dimensional brim might be too much, then I've also thrown in this third sample for you. So the stitch we're going to be using today is brick stitch, and you're going to be using two colours of size 11 Delicas. You could also use size 10 Delicas or even size 8 for a really big witch's hat. So let's get started. We're going to start by picking up two of the first colour. This is going to be the main witch's hat colour onto your needle and thread, and you're going to need about an arm span of thread, and I do recommend waxing it really well as well. So we're going to let those slide down. You want about a 10cm tail, and you're going to pass through that first bead again. This is ladder stitch. You want them to sit nice and snug together and nice and neat. And we're going to pick up one more bead. This is going to be our tip bead, and pass down through here. And don't forget, if you look on my website, you'll find the free pattern as well, which comes with a PDF, and that gives you a chart and diagrams as well, for that little bit of extra help. Now to start the second row of brick stitch, when we're starting a second row of an increased row of brick stitch, we always pick up two beads at once, just to start the row. So I'm going to pass under that thread path, pull that nice and snug, and pass back up through that second bead. Pull that nice and snug again, and you can see how they're sitting like bricks in the wall. I'm going to pick up a third bead and go under that same thread path, pull that through, and again going back through that bead. Pull that nice and snug, and don't worry if you find that bits pull out like this, we can tidy those up later. And we're going to do the same thing again for another row. So again, I'm picking up two at the beginning of the row, going under that thread path, pass through that second bead and pull through. And we're going to be creating 6 rows we're going to be creating 7 rows in total for the main witch's hat. Oh, getting attached around things on my desk now. And at the end of the row, you can see I'm adding under that thread path there that's already been gone through, pulling it nice and snug. I'll do one more row for you here just to show you, and then we'll speed up a bit. So I'm going under that thread path, picking up 2 at the beginning, and so for that final bead, I'm going under that thread path that we've already used again to make this increase on the end. And there we have one, not throw it around. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and we need to do 2 more. So there we have it. I've got my 7 rows, and I've got 7 beads in that final row. And now we're going to create this three-dimensional brim here, and I think it looks great if you do it in a second colour, so I'll show you how we do that. We're going to pick up 2 beads, sorry, just 1 bead, I'm getting carried away. 1 bead, and you're going to go back through the bead that you're coming out of, so it's that end bead. And now, so we're just ladder stitching again as we did before, so I'm going to go through to exit out of the new bead and pick up 1 more and ladder stitch in that one again. Now I'm going to fold that over, and you can see how that sits on the very end of the witch's hat, and I'm going to stitch this same bead into that end bead to anchor it into that. So fold it flat, I've gone through that bead, and I'm going to go back through the new bead again. Pull that nice and snug. I'm just going to squish that down my thumb, and you can see how those 2 beads are both anchored to this bead here. Now I'm going to square stitch another one on, or ladder stitch another one on, and go through. And now we don't have to anchor every single bead. You can see how you go. It's sometimes easier to anchor every bead, so I'm going to come out of this one, line it up with there, and go into the bead that it corresponds with, and then back through the new bead. Keep it nice and tight. You can use your thumb and forefinger to just pull it nice and tight, and pick up another. And you're going to add 9 of these beads in total, so that's 2 extra than is in the previous row. Always coming out of the new bead before you anchor to the row below. And then coming back out of the new bead. And this will stick out ever so slightly across the bottom at the edges and look nice, hopefully like a little brim on your witch's hat. And this is quite a good introduction to some of my favourite beading stitches, which is brick stitch and ladder stitch and square stitch, which are absolute staples. And the best thing about brick stitch is that it gives you so much versatility to create different shapes. It's really easy to make little flat charms and add shaping to them much more easily so than with peyote. 3, 6, 7, so I've got 2 more to add. And those 2 are going to go onto this final bead. Stitching them both on there. There we go. The benefit to not attaching every single bead means that you've got a bit more play with making sure that they fit as you want them to. So there you have, there's your little witch's hat. Now we're going to use this tail thread to attach the jump ring or the ear wire. I'm going to attach mine directly to an ear wire. So I'll just show you how to do that, and I'm also going to show you how to get rid of these awkward bits you get sometimes where the brick stitch doesn't sit quite right, and I'll just show you how to do that. So to attach the ear wire, you're going to make sure that you're exiting out of this tip bead. So I'm going to just go up this bead, and that's going to help pull those 2 together, and then go out of the tip bead. And then I'm making sure that my ear wire is facing the correct way. I'm going through that and back into that tip bead, and I'm basically square stitching this ear wire in place, and I'm going to repeat that 3 or 4 times to make sure it's really secure, because you don't want any thread scooting out of the little tiny hole. I chose not to attach a split ring or a soldered jump ring to this one because it would have meant adding extra height into my earrings, and I just wanted them to be small. But what you could do is attach a soldered jump ring, then you'd need to attach a different jump ring and your ear wire to make sure it all hung the right way. This is a quick and easy way of making them, and as long as you reinforce it, it should be secure enough. So once you've reinforced that several times, you can then weave through your work. And I can see here there's one that's not sitting quite right, so I'm going to go diagonally through the ones that aren't sitting correctly. So that one, and that helps pull it all into place. And once you've woven through a few times, you can then trim your thread off nice and snug and do the same with your working thread as well. And that's your basic witch's hat earring. There we go. Don't go anywhere, I'm now going to show you how to do the variation. So to make this version, which is slightly easier and completely flat, you're going to stitch the triangle for rows 1 to 6 as I just showed you, and that's this bit here. And then we're going to switch to a new colour. So we're going to do just a regular brick stitch row as we've just been doing, but in a different colour. As I'm picking up 2, going under the row and just stitching a normal increase row exactly the same way as before. And this hat's slightly easier, so if you're completely new to brick stitch, I recommend having a go at this one before you think about adding the brim, the 3D brim. And we're going to make an increase as we did before. And then we're going to go back to the original colour and do another increase row. Like this, and you're stitching as before, exactly the same way. And an increase on the end as before. Now what's different this time is we're going to ladder stitch an extra bead onto each end to create that pointy brim. So you're just picking up one more and going around. You may want to reinforce this one an extra time just to make sure it stays nice and stiff, and waxing your thread will also really help with getting a nice stiff charm. And then you're going to work your way back down, all the way down, until we reach the other end, and do exactly the same on that end, and then you will have your lovely witchy charm. To make the third variation, we're going to do that in exactly the same way as we did before. The only difference is you're going to create this charm, as I have just done here with the extra row and the colour in the second colour row up, and then you're going to do the double brim in the same way as we did at the beginning of this video. So it's made in exactly the same way. It's just got an extra row and the brim colour. So it's the second variation with the extra row at row 7, the extra colour, the second colour at row 7, the extra row as row 8, and then you're going to create your fold around in the same colour instead of changing colour in the way we have there. And that's it. They're as easy as that. Do show me what you've made. You can follow me on Instagram at Pinkhot_UK. I'm also on Facebook, and you can join my Facebook group. And I'd love to see what you've been making. So do snap and share pictures of your witches' hats and let me know how you get on. Happy beading!